Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. If you've been watching our channel for a while now, you might know that last summer we released a video about mysterious disappearances that happened aboard cruise ships. While researching those cases, we came across a number of other compelling and unsettling stories, as we often do. Unlike the stories we covered at the time, these cases didn't just involve the cruise industry, but crimes that had happened on other kinds of ships as well. This week, we decided to share a few of those stories with you. As always, this is far from an exhaustive list, so if you know of more cases like this that you'd like us to consider for future videos, be sure to tell us about them in the comments section below. And if you haven't seen our last video about cruise ship disappearances, be sure to check that out as well. We'll leave a link in the description. Before we get to our list, we wanted to take a second to let everyone know that Crime Zone's Patreon is now live. In addition to ad-free versions of all of our content and weekly bonus videos for our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos, patrons will get exclusive monthly videos covering viewer-suggested cases. If you want even more Crime Zone content and are interested in helping to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/crimezone to sign up. We'd love to have you on board. With that out of the way, here are 3 terrifying crimes that happened aboard ships. In May of 2006, 48-year-old Lonnie Kakantes and his 52-year-old ex-wife, Micki Kanesaki, decided to go on a week-long Italian cruise. Though this may have seemed like a strange thing for a divorced couple to do from an outsider's perspective, for those who knew Lonnie and Micki, it seemed like just another chapter in what had always been a strange relationship. The pair had met at a Los Angeles law firm where Lonnie worked as a lawyer and Micki worked as a paralegal, and they had married in 1995. They bought a house in Ladera Ranch in Orange County and stayed together for a few years, but divorced in 2001. During that time, Micki had left her job as a paralegal due to her severe arthritis and had turned to investing as a source of income. Despite the couple's divorce, both Lonnie and Micki continued to live in the house in Ladera Ranch. This was true even after Lonnie met a woman named Amy Nguyen on a dating site in 2002. Finally, in 2005, it seemed like Lonnie was ready to move on. He married Amy in Las Vegas, and they moved into a new house together in the city of Orange. However, this arrangement was short-lived. Lonnie wanted Micki to sell the Ladera Ranch house and split the proceeds, but she refused. The sale of the home, as well as its rightful ownership, quickly became an ongoing argument, and it looked like the matter was going to have to be settled in court. But then, Lonnie abruptly divorced Amy Nguyen, moved back in with Micki, and the court case over the house was dismissed. In the following months, Lonnie and Micki appeared to be making plans to get back together. Lonnie had new wills drawn up for both of them and was made the executor of Micki's estate. The couple said that they were planning to get remarried on their wedding anniversary in November of 2006. It was under the guise of this reconciliation that they flew to Spain on May 21st and boarded a ship bound for Italy called the Island Escape, with roughly 1,700 other passengers. At first, everything seemed fine. The ship sailed to Sicily, where Lonnie and Micki took part in a day excursion in the Italian town of Messina on May 25th. The boat was scheduled to continue north in the following days, eventually ending up in Livorno in Tuscany. However, at approximately 6 a.m. on May 26th, Lonnie notified cruise officials that Micki was missing. When several pages to passengers over the ship's PA system failed to uncover Micki's whereabouts, the ship made an unscheduled stop in Naples, and the local police were called. Italian authorities began by conducting an onboard investigation, collecting witness statements, conducting interviews, and searching the couple's cabin. When he was interviewed, Lonnie told police that he and Micki had shared a bottle of white wine the night before, but that he had taken a sleeping pill shortly afterwards so that he would be well rested for the next day's excursion. He claimed that he had last seen Micki at approximately 1 a.m. that morning. She had told him she was going to get a cup of tea, to help her relax. Inside the cabin, investigators found the empty wine bottle, which seemed to support Lonnie's story. There were no signs of anything out of the ordinary, so he was allowed to disembark from the ship. Despite being given an indefinite stay in a hotel room in Naples while authorities investigated Micki's disappearance, Lonnie decided to leave after just one night. He flew back to California on the morning of May 27th, but curiously, instead of returning to his home in Ladera Ranch, he went to stay with Amy Nguyen, and they resumed their relationship. Micki's body was found later that day, floating in the sea near Reggio de Calabria. Despite the extremely suspicious circumstances of Micki's death, in the immediate aftermath, it was reported that investigators were not ready to declare that foul play was involved in the case. As far as the public knew, the situation would remain this way for years, while Italian authorities and the FBI continued their investigation. When Lonnie was interviewed by the FBI, he told them that he believed that Micki had taken her own life. He claimed that she had often talked of suicide, and that these thoughts only grew worse when she drank. To support his version of events, Lonnie pointed to Micki's documented history of domestic abuse, for which the police had been called several times during the relationship. In August of 2002, Micki had been arrested and charged with corporal injury and battery against Lonnie. At that time, he had written a letter to the court expressing Micki's need for counseling, and that he was concerned that she would attempt to take her own life. A similar incident occurred early in 2006. Both times, Micki attended counseling programs, and the second time, she went to sessions run by Alcoholics Anonymous. Still, despite Micki's obvious problems, investigators could not get over Lonnie's suspicious behavior. His swift departure from Italy after Micki's disappearance was a major red flag, and so was his obvious financial gain from the situation. The death not only meant that Lonnie was able to sell the Ladera Ranch home like he had wanted, but his changes to Micki's will meant that he had access to her bank accounts. He eventually left Amy Nguyen and moved to Florida, where he married a third time. It wasn't until February of 2013 that investigators felt they had enough evidence against Lonnie to charge him with Micki's murder, and he was arrested. Authorities said they now believed that Lonnie had strangled Micki to death before throwing her overboard from the cruise ship on the night that she disappeared. They added that they could prove it based on recently uncovered evidence. Authorities also stated that the motive behind the crime had been financial gain, both of property and more than $1 million in money and assets belonging to Micki Kanesaki. Even after the shocking announcement, the case would be delayed several times. One major reason for these delays is that it had to be decided whether the Orange County District Attorney's Office could claim jurisdiction for a killing that took place in international waters. The case was eventually allowed to go to trial in early 2020, after it was decided that investigators' theory of the case was that the crime had been planned in Orange County. At the trial, the full scope of what investigators had uncovered finally became clear. The most crucial piece of evidence was the testimony of Italian pathologist Dr. Pietrantonio Ricci, who had conducted an autopsy on Micki's body. He found that there was no water in Micki's lungs, and that this was not consistent with someone who had simply fallen overboard and drowned. Instead, Ricci said that Micki had been strangled, and that she was already dead when her body hit the water. Ironically, it was the method of her death that had caused the body to float, leading to its eventual discovery. Lonnie's defense lawyer argued that perhaps Micki had fallen and broken her neck on the way into the water, but this theory was shot down by Ricci. He testified that injuries to Micki's neck were the result of a violent action that had been sustained for a period of time, much more consistent with a strangulation. The prosecution also presented information and testimony from multiple key witnesses, including Amy Nguyen and Lonnie's former best friend, Bill Price. Price, who was a private detective and former cop, told authorities that prior to planning the cruise, Lonnie had asked him about the security measures on board these kinds of ships, taking a special interest in surveillance cameras. Price also claimed that Lonnie had chosen that specific cruise ship because all of the balcony rooms, like the one he and Micki stayed in, had a straight drop to the water below. Furthermore, the boat was a suspicious choice because it was inconvenient to get to. Lonnie and Micki had to take a flight to Minnesota and then to London before finally traveling to Spain to board the ship. Even the travel agent had reportedly been confused by Lonnie's choice and warned him that the vacation might not be right for him because of the extensive travel required and the fact that the boat was a converted ferry with few amenities. At trial, Amy Nguyen testified that Lonnie had shared his plans with her that he was going to have Micki killed or kill her himself. Though she had previously lied to authorities and a grand jury in defense of Lonnie, she said that this was only because he had threatened to kill her and make it look like an accident. By this time, authorities believed the threats against her were credible, as they had uncovered evidence that Lonnie had tried to solicit people to kill Amy after his arrest, when she began to cooperate with the investigation. Following the 3-month trial, Lonnie Kakontas was convicted of the murder of Micki Kanesaki. On September 18, 2020, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, more than 14 years after the crime took place. After impact statements from Micki's family, Assistant District Attorney Susan Price summed up the disturbing motive behind the killing and condemned Lonnie's actions one final time, saying, quote, "He is calculated, he is incredibly smart, he lacks empathy and compassion, and is willing to take tremendous risks to harm others. He killed her because she was standing in his way of getting what he wanted. He planned, he schemed, he eliminated that obstacle." Do you know of any other cases like this that you think we should check out? Tell us about them in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.